I get to get back to work. Hey, shine like gold. They don't want story, man, they want the soundbite. I'm like, no, look around like they see you on the mountain, they don't see you on the climb. Right, me and all of mine in the power line. Look at this and what you find. Right, shimmer, lights, flicker, all this.
What's going on? My name is Josh. I'm the founder and master electrician here at Empowered Electric. And today I wanted to just kind of show you how to make a pushing and a pulling wire head. This isn't going to really help a lot of homeowners, but if you're a commercial electrician, you realize very early on that pulling wire is one of the biggest things that we do. To be honest, as I went through my apprenticeship and became a journeyman, pulling wire was not my favorite thing, but I learned a couple little tricks that I want to show you to make it efficient, because there's nothing worse than getting tangled up, not identifying the wire correctly, or even worse, having a wire head break mid-pull. So let me come over here and show you how to make both a pulling and a pushing wire head. So before we start with our pushing or pulling head, we want to make sure that we do a little preparation because it makes the operation a lot easier. For example, I want to line my wires up the way that the phase colors go. So black, red, blue. If it was high voltage, it would go brown, orange, yellow. You don't want to make things confusing. So black, red, blue is the way that we set it up. We also, in most applications, pull a neutral with every circuit. So we want each neutral to go with the corresponding color. So we wouldn't tie these two wires together or these two or this. We want to do a little bit of prep on the front end that make the back end way easier. Now, a second thing that we can do to make sure that no confusion happens while we're pulling it and we're wasting time either ohming out wires or the old, is it this black wire or that black wire trick? We get a piece of tape. So whether it's electrical, well, you couldn't do electrical tape. You can do masking tape or you can do duct tape. And this works whether you're identifying wire on a cart, on a spool, whatever you name it, you can put tape down. Then you get a Sharpie and you're gonna mark what the circuit numbers are. So this is circuit 1, this is circuit 3, this is circuit 5. If you don't know how to circuit out colors, ask your journeyman electrician. As we start, we're gonna start with the pushing wire head. Now, you're gonna push wire. Pulling wire is way more efficient, unless it's one circuit, which is gonna be a neutral, and a ground. So we've got our black, our neutral, and our ground. And when we push this wire, it's through a conduit, maybe down to one receptacle or one light switch, whenever it's very easy to do by yourself. So before you even start making up the head, a lot of people, they'll just take a pair of dikes or a pair of wire cutters and they'll just cut these off. I think when you're pushing a wire head, and now that I'm an owner, honestly, I don't like to waste wire, so you can easily just straighten these wires out. But you do need to start with straight wires. Get them lined up pretty well like that is a good start. Typically, we're gonna take the ground a little further up, and you're going to kind of hold them together really tight. One of the things I said about becoming a great electrician is getting hand strength. Part of that is by eating Chinese food with chopsticks. I'm telling you, it's an invaluable lesson. So you get it held, you pull up a green wire or a hot, really any wire up a little further, and you put a little round of tape right here. Circle it around, and then I'm gonna show you what some people do that's a bad idea. You bend the pulling wire over like this, or the pushing wire over like this, and then they'll tape it up. And they'll say, there we go, I'm ready to push the wire. Now, while that might go through, the big dilemma here is there's a lot of catch points. And when you're pushing the wire through a tube, there's also couplings, there's connectors, there's a lot of things that this wire can get caught to, and it's gonna make your life miserable right there. There's also a little bit of a chubby head right there that's just gonna make that bad. So I would say this is not a good head. Let's cut that and start over. So, start with our wires, pull the ground up a little bit more. We're gonna take this tape, just like last time. We're gonna start about an inch or so down, and we're gonna wire it, or we're gonna wrap it around the wire. Now, one thing, I don't know if you can get a close up here, I've got one finger in the tape hole, and then I'm using another finger to pull it tight. You want the tape to be tight as you wrap around the wires. If you do it loosey-goosey, the chances, especially when pulling wire, it could break loose. So you wanna get a little bit of a tight wrap. And then you wanna bend your wires, not with your hands, with a pair of needle nose or a pair of linemen's, you want to bend it towards the wires. You see that in this direction versus last time? And then you pinch it tight and you give it that little counter move right there. It's a tight little hoop there. Once again, pulling the wire tight, you wrap it around like that, break it free. You have a tight head with no pinch points, no grab points. That's gonna slide through really well right there. That's how you make a pushing head. That's how it should look. Tight, compact, well laced up. So now to deal with a pulling wire head. We're gonna pull wire whenever we're dealing with more than one circuit or when there's two people involved. A pushing wire head, one person is just pushing it. A two wire head is whenever we're gonna pull it. It's either a further distance, there's a bunch of wires. So we're gonna start with our wires just like we did with the pushing head and make sure that everything is lined up. Each hot has a neutral, the hots are lined up. Everything is done on the front end to make it easier. We have circuits 1, 3, and 5, and that's what I'm gonna show you with right now. So, let me get these. Neutrals. Let me get these neutrals in this ground. Come on now. And the ground. A pulling wire head, once again, is home runs when there's more than one wire, when there's two people working together, and you're gonna pull it with a fish tape or jet line or a couple different items. What would you use other than jet line, pull string, or a fish tape? I have no idea. That's the only way you're gonna pull wire. Maybe people have something else, but this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take all your wires, and just like a pulling head, you want them to be all straight. You wanna start with them all lined up in the same direction. They're not all gonna be this way. The last thing you're gonna do is pull one wire up, bend it over, and tape it up like this and think that's gonna pull anything. What's gonna happen there is a wire is gonna get snagged and it's gonna come loose, and instead of having 9 wires, you're gonna have 5 or 7. You're gonna lose a wire, or it's just gonna break loose and just pull this head by itself. This wire head, if you taped this up, I don't know, man, you gotta go run to the porta potty and back or something, because that's ridiculous. So how do you do it? Well, line all these wires up, and just like I said, why we put the tape and why we lined them up nice, we wanna be able to identify these. Now, wire is got a mind of its own sometimes. It wants to fall, it wants to get pulled, it wants to do some things. So what I like to do is about 2 feet back, or 1 foot back actually, 1.5 feet, let's say 1.5 feet. The way you measure that is thumb. You put your thumb at the end, thumb at the end, thumb at the end. You know, like electrical talk, thumb to the bottom of your hand is about 6 inches. So you get about 1.5 feet back. You take your tape and you put a little band around it just to make it easy for you so that you know that you're not gonna lose anything, okay? Now, once that occurs, you can go back to your wire spool and you can start identifying what's the hot and the neutral that's gonna go together. This is very important. If you have number books, you can use number books to identify the wires, but if there's just one of each color, which we have 1, 3, and 5, black, red, and blue, you can use a piece of tape and the number books aren't needed. Number books are one of the most underutilized things that save so much time. So if your foreman or your journeyman or anyone tells you that they don't wanna waste money by buying number books, those people are crazy. So we got our black wire, now we need our red and our white. So I'm gonna identify those real quick. I mean, and real quick is a relative term here, people. So I got my white and my red, okay? White and my red. I'm gonna identify these. And like most things, you can plan now or you can panic later. I like to slow down a little bit on the front end so that I can move confidently and effectively. Rather than, so here's something a lot of times people do. When they identify the black and the white, when they identify the red and the white, they're just going to assume that this blue and white go together, which is probably right. I like to trace it back and make sure before I tape it that it's right. It's just a way to double check yourself now rather than whenever a wire's made up inappropriately. I don't think anybody's ever called it inappropriate makeup on wire, but you know, it is what it is. So identify those. And once again, you want wires to be tight. If wires are not tight, if they're flappy, if they're loose, they might, while you're pulling the wire, get get snagged and get pulled off, and then you're gonna have to identify it. So I have my hots, my neutrals, all that kind of stuff identified. I have my little safety band here. Then I'm gonna come up to my head. So I know the ground's gonna be a little bit longer than all the rest because I need to bend that over. But then I need to stagger these. I don't want to take all these wires and just cut them, you know, here. I don't want to do that and then bend that over. I don't want that because that's going to create a really bulky point where it goes from thin wire to bulky wire. It's going to hit a couple and it's going to hit something. So rather, I want to take a couple, let's say these 3, cut them back a little further, cut these back a little more, like so that they're staggered, how there's layers of wires. Then you grab it and you twist it like so to make sure that they all kind of line up. See, versus something like this. Like if I taped it like that, look how wide that is. Okay, you want to get it kind of tight like a straw. Straws that are illegal. Do not drink out of plastic straws and throw them in the ocean. They kill freaking sea turtles. So you're gonna get that green wire, bend it over like so. Now, this is a little close, just FYI. It's a little close to not being past the wires I cut back here. I think that's enough, but you don't want it to be something like this. Like if the wire was bent over and there were wires that you were cut that aren't gonna be overlapped with this wire right here. So see how they overlap all of them? There we go. You then take your tape and that over like that. And what I like to do is I like to start the head, especially depending on if it's a home run. I start with it not bent over. I tape it really tight. I'm covering all those little stragglers, okay? I'm making sure it's a tight straw-like shape, moving it over, making sure they're not getting twisted. Then once I go all the way across, then I bend that wire back. And I don't just bend it with my fingers, okay? I bend it with my lineman's or my needle nose to make sure it's a good tight compaction. Then I loop it back and I tape it back the other direction, looping all these wires. Once I get past the head wire, I go a little couple more, boom, break it off. Look how tight and compact that is. Tight and compact like a straw. There's that little safety band there. My wires are all identified. If now I wanted to put my numbers on there from my number books, I could put them right here. Take it over to the pipe, tie my jet line to it, tie a fish tape to it, and yell, "Ready!" Guys, so there you have it, both a pulling and a pushing head. They look very similar. See how compact and tight they are? See how that tape isn't loosey-goosey? It looks like it's gonna stay put. Like I said, a head breaking in the middle of a pull or losing a wire is gonna kill productivity. It's gonna kill efficiency. And honestly, it's one of the most frustrating things to pull the wire that you just pulled in all the way out, only to remake up the head because you didn't do it right the first time. Not breaking heads is so critical. And this right here, a pushing head. Guys, I've pushed thousands of feet of wire by myself. The way that I make sure that it's efficient is I have that tight head just like that. So do the pre-work, okay? Label your wires, organize it well, don't let it look like a rat's nest, and have fun playing tug of war. Guys, as always, thanks a ton for tuning in. If you're in the Kansas City area, reach out to us, Empowered Electric, 816-500-9452. I know that everyone does things different. This is kind of the way that we see it as best. If you know a better way, or you want to leave a comment or ask a question or leave a tip, do it in the comments below. Thanks a ton for watching. Sparkling hibiscus tea from Caveman Coffee. Proud sponsor of the Empowered People podcast. You can use discount code EEKC to get 10% off. So, I mean, what's better than that? All right.